Happy hump day, as they would say. Very first day of April. What's up, everybody? Hit the like button on your way in, as always. I really appreciate it. In today's episode, man, I really want to talk about, we're going to get to Pastor Rob McCoy coming out of the woodwork and having a few choice words for Candace Owens and an interesting statement or perspective on Tyler Robinson that I don't know if I've heard Rob McCoy say before, because it's been a while since we've reacted to any of his sermons on the channel. And there's another pastor by the name of Pastor Mark Driscoll, I believe it is, Driscoll, who was religiously known for mentioning Candace in a lot of his sermons, which I just think is weird. Again, it's not necessarily about defending Candace. It's about pointing out the fact that if you ever wanted to understand that there's paid campaigns and there's agendas, behind the scene agendas that are being orchestrated, I think pastors are a great example, right? You shouldn't be focusing on podcasters in your sermons. That's very odd. It's very weird. But before we get to any of that, I want to first speak on Andrew Kolvet and a couple of clips. I want to play a couple of clips from Andrew Kolvet and some things that he said, but I also would like to speak to the Jaden Ivey story. For those of you that are not familiar with the NBA player that was just waived from his team, it's been all over the internet. If you are a follower of Christ, or if you are a follower of Jesus Christ, to be specific, and if you consider yourself a Christian, this is definitely something you want to watch, because this is just another example, in my opinion, how I learned the hard way a year and a half ago, how believing in the Bible, speaking about that publicly, they will claim to be inclusive unless you're a Christian. If you're a Christian, then that inclusivity does not extend to you. All right. So I would love to speak on this. But first, let's go over and take a listen to Mr. Andrew Kolvet and what he had to say. What clip do I want to play first? Here it is. It says, a lot of noise was made yesterday about the Daily Mail headline said the ATF could not match the gun to the bullet in the Tyler Robinson trial, right? And he had someone he tagged him here, Phoenix Ammunition, joined us today to explain the actual facts. Now let's take a listen to just a little bit of this clip here, and then I'm gonna get into my response on what I think about this clip altogether.
A lot of that, but here to help us do it is somebody that I've been watching online for a while now. I've been really impressed with his takes. I've never met him in person before, but he agreed to come on because he was instantly on top of this story. His name is Justin Nazaroff. He's the CEO of Phoenix Ammunition. Welcome to the show, Justin.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it was the first time I've ever seen you, Justin. So it's great to see you. So let's just take apart this headline from the Daily Mail. I saw you criticizing it as sort of an egregious misrepresentation of the facts. They're saying the bullet does not match the rifle, court filing claims, right? What's your read of what actually it says?
Well, I mean, it's one of those headlines where they can say something that's true, but because they leave out the context, as soon as you read the article, you can see why it's false. And
so let's just pause there, because that is what he just said is extremely important. And what you're going to notice is that Andrew Kolvet is not going to actually address the first part of what he just said, which is the headline here is actually true. Which, in my opinion, yes, the point that they're about to make is important to clarify, which is it's not the full truth, right? But what's important is that it's still true nonetheless. And if you're Andrew Kolvet and if you're TPUSA, then this should be extremely problematic. That's what matters the most here. That cannot get lost. But if you notice in this clip, I don't want to get ahead of myself, Andrew Kolvet only has one agenda, and you're about to see it.
So what they did was they analyzed a bullet jacket fragment and were unable to determine that it came from the shooter's rifle. So unfortunately, ballistic science is, in a lot of cases, a best guess. and in many other cases, pseudoscience. But what we know is it doesn't work like CSI Las Vegas. When a bullet hits something and deforms, which is what we've been talking about the whole time, we're assuming that the shooter probably used a hollow point or some other bullet that is functionally intended to deform when it hits something. And so when it does that, it doesn't come out in a nice, perfect form where you can see all the lands and grooves from the barrel and make a positive match. So in this case, they can't determine whether the bullet was fired from the rifle, but they also can't determine that it wasn't fired from the rifle. That's right. Effectively all they're saying. They're saying that there's some reasonable doubt that it could theoretically have been something else.
So for those of you that haven't caught that word, those two words, that one term, that one phrase there that's extremely important, it's called reasonable doubt. So even if everything he's saying is true, I have no reason not to believe this guy that's speaking. But even if what he's saying is true, he's just made the argument for the defense. Reasonable doubt. That's all it takes, man. That's the problem here. If you're Andrew Kolvet, you should be upset and you should be asking questions. The dude on your show just said reasonable doubt, Andrew Kolvet. That alone, case closed. That's all he needs.
Now, I'm not making an affirmative declaration one way or another. I want people to understand that. This has nothing to do with what I think happened or what anybody else thinks happened. All I'm doing is looking at the facts. And as somebody who's been doing this for a very long time, knowing that most people just really don't understand much about firearms generally, and even people in the firearms community who do understand firearms generally don't really know a lot about ammunition.
Yeah, and so you're saying basically because the fragmentation of the bullet was so severe, I don't mean to sort of infer by your tone here, but you're saying, of course, this would be one of the options that, of course, you wouldn't be able to necessarily identify it via forensic evidence with the gun. There's other ways you could. Now, the caliber matches, all of these kinds of things. But, you know, I think what people expect is sort of the CSI version of reality.
A lot of people think, and I think this is a graphic you can see in TV shows or movies where they'll take like...
Dude sounds straight up like a woman, bro. I just don't, I'm really not trying to be mean here. I just don't know what it is with TPUSA male employees. Why do they all sound like women? Mikey McCoy speaks just like a lady. Blake Neff speaks just like a lady. Andrew Kolvet kind of has that thing going. I don't know what that's about here. And what makes it even worse is their male guest always shows there's a stark contrast in the way that they're speaking. Not that men speak stereotypically, you know, not that there's a stereotypical way that men speak, but generally speaking, when we hear men, there's a certain cadence and a certain way in which we just speak and carry ourselves. And then when TPUSA men speak, there's something different here. I don't know what that's about.
A bunch of little pieces of metal out of like, you know,
thin air,
and then they'll like put them all onto like a little, you know, machine, and then like the computer will assemble all the bits and they'll just see it. Oh, they'll like bend the bits and reassemble the bullet, and then like green text will pop up that says confirmed
ding,
match.
ding, ding. Yeah. So I'm just going to read one of your tweets. I'm not going to put it up on screen because you use some colorful language here, Justin, but you say completely and utterly misleading garbage about this Daily Mail headline. You say the bullet is unable to be identified because it's you use more colorful language here. It's fragmented into a bunch of pieces. And when that happens, they don't do some magic CSI Las Vegas animation where they manage to reassemble the bullet and perfectly align the lands and grooves to match a barrel. None of that is real. That is not how science works. And then, you know, it was interesting to watch the internet last night. This story hits, all the usual suspects take it and run it. And then a bunch of saner voices come in and say, this is not something new. We've known that the bullet fragmented. We knew that like lining it up perfectly.
In the first days afterwards.
Yeah, lining it perfectly up to the rifle was going to be a challenge. But there's other ways that you could match in theory, right? And again, I respect that you're not trying to say this happened or that happened. You're just giving us the details. You're giving us the facts. There's other ways you could match a gun to a bullet, correct?
Yeah, well, as an example,
match,
they could test the metal and show this is the same metal as the rounds that were recovered with the rifle.
Sure.
Which, remember, we have a rifle with rounds that have political messages engraved on them.
Okay, but here's the bigger problem here, and I've been saying this, and I'm not the only one to say it. I'm not the first. I won't be the last. Let's say that you're able to prove that. Let's say that you're able to prove that this bullet matched that gun. As we've been saying for months on this show, on this channel, I'm going to say it again. Are you able to prove that Tyler Robinson pulled the trigger? That is what the prosecution's job will be. To this day, I've yet to hear anyone say that there's been footage of him firing a shot. That's physical. That's visual evidence. Do you have physical proof that Tyler Robinson was the one? So in other words, not just a person that may be Tyler Robinson firing the shot. Did you test them for GSR? We've yet to see that information. If that's another thing that you're saying, we don't want to give that to the defense. We don't want the defense to know this. That could mess up our case. How? That makes no sense. I'm going to tell you why. The defense would already know that, right? Because the defense kind of is defending the very person that you would have tested for the GSR. That being Tyler Robinson. We haven't heard anything about you testing him for GSR. Another thing, there are multiple sets of DNA on this rifle, right? And another thing, I was looking at the rifle that Tyler Robinson had, and I personally wonder if that rifle can be disassembled the way Governor Cox. That's the way I'm going to say it, because apparently that's not a part of the official charging documents. The information isn't in there that he broke the rifle down with the screwdriver on the roof. But Governor Cox did in fact say this originally. So I don't know what the inconsistencies are there. If you're the defense, then you need to be using that, because clearly their stories aren't aligned. And the reason why this is important is because there were other things that Governor Cox shared about Tyler Robinson, about Discord messages and things of that sort. What's real and what's not? Because if you all can't even keep a consistent story, you can use that against them. You can use that against the state. And I'm not even here to defend, right? I'm not even here to defend a Tyler Robinson. I'm here to defend truth. But the bigger question here with Andrew Kolvet, I'm gonna show it to you all. This is what let's see. So yesterday I hopped in the comment section and I said, the most odd thing about these posts from Andrew is that you notice that he isn't exactly open to following where the evidence truly leads him. Instead, it seems that his priority is to only push one objective. Tyler Robinson is guilty. Everyone should find this suspicious. And when Andrew claims that he is actually, quote unquote, open-minded, clearly his public actions do not reflect that. Because you're gonna see here in a moment, he replied to someone and said that he was in fact open to many different possibilities. But if he was really truly open to many different possibilities, then we should be able to see that in his actions. He should be questioning things the way that we are. He should be confused about certain things the way that we are. But he's not. He's not. Sam Park here says, the difference between you and us is that we want Tyler Robinson punished for whatever role he had in the assassination, along with anyone else who played a role. You've shown zero interest in pursuing anyone else who might be involved. Exactly. Surprise, surprise, he didn't respond to this. Somebody else said, it really feels like you're not fighting for truth. It feels like you're fighting to stick with the Tyler is guilty, and you can't look past that. It's weird and it's gross. He responded to them and said, I have remained open-minded throughout this entire process. I have followed every lead I could. My position is that the prosecution has presented the most compelling case of who unalived Charlie. Do you have proof that they're wrong? What other theory of the case is more compelling? The state is still investigating additional suspects and networks. But even if there's a broader nexus, armed queers, SLC, for example, that doesn't negate Tyler Robinson's guilt. No, buddy, but you know what it could negate? Tyler Robinson's role, the role that he played, right? Someone else said, why are you taking a side? Won't it all come out in court anyway, and he will be found guilty? He says, I'm letting the legal process play out. He is presumed innocent until proven guilty. My issue is with the misleading headline that suggested the bullet didn't match the gun, when in reality, inconclusive means insufficient evidence to draw any conclusion. It doesn't mean the bullet did not match the rifle like the headline says. That's fair. But shouldn't you be asking questions publicly the way that we are? All right? Another thing I thought about, I wonder if you all thought about this, and let me know if you all thought about this. Andrew Kolvet sent the text message thread of Charlie. He sent that to Joe Kent, who was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. And just so we're on the same page, because there's confusion about, let's see, what is the role of the director of National Counterterrorism Center? So let's look at this together. Okay, what is the role? It says the director of the National Counterterrorism Center serves as the principal advisor to the director of national intelligence on counterterrorism operations, leading the U.S. counterterrorism, counter-narcotics enterprise. They provide strategic operational plans for government-wide counterterrorism efforts and oversee the integration of intelligence to protect U.S. interests. I see. So one of their roles is to disseminate terrorism information and current threat analysis to the president, vice president, cabinet secretaries, and other senior officials. Okay. Ensures the counterterrorism intelligence and operations are integrated and that information is shared across the federal government, state, local, tribal, and foreign partners. So, with everything we just read and we see here, we have to ask ourselves, why would Andrew Kolvet send a Charlie Kirk text message thread of him complaining about Jewish donors? Why would he send that to Joe Kent? Notice he did not send that, from what we can tell, from what I understand. He didn't send it to Kash Patel. Why would he send it to Joe Kent? Is it because he believes that Kash Patel could be the enemy? Kash Patel would not do anything with it. Kash Patel may be in on it. Why was it Joe Kent in particular? Then he pretended as if he had no clue what we were talking about. What Candace was talking about, rather. That's actually one of the most important questions that we've asked in a while. Why did Andrew Kolvet send that to Joe Kent specifically? If anybody can figure out the answer to that question, maybe another content creator figures out that answer, let me know what you all find. Because his behavior in particular is so odd, because he was sending all of these things, and now all of a sudden he's pretending that he never suspected anybody else. He never suspected anything else. Did Andrew Kolvet specifically send it over to Joe Kent because of the specific counterterrorism aspect, angle? Something to think about. That's something to think about. But there is another thing I want to show you all. Check this out. So listen to what Andrew Kolvet had to say here.
Andrew Kolvet, and he joins us now. Brother, I wish I was bringing you in to talk about something else, to be honest, but I want to give you a chance to deal with this on your own terms. It's all very hot right now that, see, it wasn't him. How do you deal with what comes along with this personally and at the organization?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I would just say, my biggest beef is with this Daily Mail headline. First of all, it was what I consider media malpractice, the way that they presented it. And it felt like they were catering it to this cottage industry that's exploded online about conspiracy theories after Charlie's assassination. So I was pretty upset about the way they formulated that headline. I thought that it should have been corrected, requested corrections. Haven't seen it happen yet. So that's number one. But there is a silver lining here, Chris. It's almost like the internet is developing antibodies to some of the crazy stuff, because what we saw, the headline drops, predictable, all the usual suspects rush in, take advantage of it, take the story where it didn't go. But then you saw something different. You actually saw some sane voices, some people pushing back. And by this morning, it felt like a lot of the zaniness had been muted. Of course, some people are not going to hear basic arguments or common sense, but it did feel like there was a bit of a detente, and that was a first in some of these waves that we've seen. And so I'm actually pretty encouraged about the developments. And like I said, it feels like we're almost building up antibodies to this, and people are getting their courage to speak out and speak some of the truth, whereas before we just, we saw this stuff run rampant.
Okay, so there's a few things he did there. So what he's doing is he's using this as an example, which is why he decided to go into News Nation. Andrew Kolvet is very deceptive, man. So he's using this because the things that he's saying about the headline are true. Make no mistake about that. What he's saying about the headlines is a fair statement, which is they said that the bullet does not match the gun, which is not necessarily true. We don't know that. But the results came back as inconclusive, which means that it could go either way, right? So the headline may be true. We don't know if it's true or not. So that is a misleading headline. But Andrew Kolvet is deceptive here because, just like the story that came out that turned out to be false about Erika Kirk allegedly procuring young girls for Jeffrey Epstein, when that story came out, they hopped on that. Andrew Kolvet, TPUSA, Matt Walsh, the list goes on. They got their marching orders. Hey, use this to then say, look, see what we're saying? They take these stories and they run with them. Therefore, you all should know that everything else that they're saying is a lie. But that's not true. Because what Andrew Kolvet will not do, to everybody else's point, with everything else, crazy. This right here is the story of my life. I'm not getting notifications for your channel, Didi. This is the story of my life. The amount of people that have told me this over the past maybe month and a half, you all don't even begin to understand how frustrating that is. Veronica has told me this a few times. I just don't know what to say, bro. Other than surprise, I told you I get shadow banned. I told you this is a thing. Some of you all are getting notifications. Okay, that's good. She keeps getting unsubscribed. Amazing, bro. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say, y'all. Like, I don't know. It sometimes it plays on your psyche. It's like, is it my content? Is it not? Is it what I'm talking about? Is it how I'm delivering it? Is it because I need to be better? Is it because I need to be different? No. Look at this. I have to search for Didi. I don't get it. I don't get it, man. But I'll get back to the topic at hand. I appreciate you all. The best I can do here is to just take this moment and to just say, in this very moment, please look right now, see if you're still subscribed. Please hit the like button. Send this video to somebody when you get a chance. Hitting the like button helps. Sometimes they'll even shadow ban the likes. Yeah, that's a thing. If 500 of you right now was to hit the like button, I probably would only get 270 of the likes. Yeah, it's extremely frustrating. But back to what I was saying here about Andrew Kolvet before I forget. Andrew Kolvet, if you notice, if there was nothing to hide, if you had all the good, the best intentions to simply get to the truth, why won't you collaborate? You're collaborating with other people. Why won't you just collaborate with the people that have questions that are critical? And you work with them. You and maybe when it gets to a question that you can't answer because TPUSA's attorneys have told you that you can't answer certain questions, fine. Say, okay, that one right there, guys, I can't answer. But the rest of this stuff, I'll help you. What are you not clear about? What would you like to know? He's not doing that. He's dodging anybody who's critical. That's not normal. He only collaborates with people who have no questions for him that are critical. That's not normal. That's not normal behavior, y'all. He doesn't want to slip up and say the wrong thing. He only collaborates with Megyn Kelly, Chris Cuomo. Huh? Why are you staying in this safe bubble? You weren't the person that got shot. Somebody else did. You're just a bystander, right? You weren't even physically there. Why can't you talk with people who are critical? He's reminding me of Dan Bongino, who just recently started attacking Thomas Massie. Senator Thomas Massie. What are you doing, Dan Bongino? Crazy. Crazy, man. Yeah. Talking about, oh yeah, and the last thing I want to say here, you have to point out the one of the biggest lies here. He says that that if you look close enough, then you will notice that there were a lot more sane people. Yeah, because this was an easy thing to just distinguish between. But what about the other 4,172 gaps, red flags, and inconsistencies that we found? What about those? And questions that we have. What about those? Don't just wait until it's something easy as this, because you're still missing the biggest elephant in the room with this headline, with this article. It's inconclusive, bro. So what bullet that you claim that some coroner found, when they're now reporting that they found fragments of a bullet? You said they found the bullet. I would think if it was the fragment of the bullet, you would have made that distinction. You know, being that Charlie had a neck of steel, which I've pointed this out before, and I'm going to point this out again. Let's see. Tyler Robinson, Dairy Queen photo. This did not go unnoticed. So remember, Dairy Queen. Remember they said that Tyler Robinson, something tells me I'm not going to be able to pull up this photo, but let's see. Remember they claimed that Tyler Robinson had a neck of steel. And this is just the small things that they'll do, almost as if they're playing games. Almost as if, man, I'm just so good at this. Okay, never mind. There it is. So Charlie Kirk had a neck of steel. He was the man of steel, neck of steel. Does anybody notice why that's important or relevant in this photo? What do you notice in this photo that's relevant to the statement that I just made? I'm going to give you all a second to see if you can notice it. Anybody see it? Anybody see it yet? Bingo. Bingo. Is that a coincidence? They're pushing this man of steel, neck of steel narrative, and it's alleged to have come from Erika Kirk. Andrew Kolvet would then go on to tweet it. And then this photo with leak of Tyler Robinson and a Dairy Queen, by the way, that's since been shut down. And right behind him, the reason we know that it took place the week that it took place is because of the special dessert smoothie that's behind him. They only served that for a limited time. So we see this photo, and who do we see behind him? The man of steel. Really? Really? The milkshake. Yeah. Really? That's just so convenient. You know? Yeah, man. So crazy. So okay, enough of Andrew Kolvet, man. Let's transition over to Jaden Ivey. Before we get to Rob McCoy's sermon, let's position over to our guy, Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey. Here, let me pull up a photo of him just so you all can see what he looks like. Boom. Okay, let's see if I can get this pulled up. So this right here is Jaden Ivey. For those of you that have not seen this has been everywhere. Jaden Ivey has been in the league, I believe, maybe 2 or 3 years. Let me make sure I get this right. I want to get this right. It doesn't even really matter. He's an NBA player, and he's not a scrub NBA player. Just a year ago, he was averaging like 18 points a game, almost 20 points a game. He was playing for the Detroit Pistons alongside the original plan, from my understanding, is that they were priming him to play alongside somebody by the name of Cade Cunningham, who is arguably the best point guard in the NBA. That's how good this guy is, or at least was at the time. January of 2025, I believe it was, Jaden Ivey would break his leg. Obviously, that entails a long rehab process, and then he would eventually get traded to the Chicago Bulls. His career has not been quite the same. That is fair. Many people are claiming that it's because his career is not quite the same that he did the very thing that I'm about to show you. About 2 days ago, Jaden Ivey decided to go on his own time, off the clock, at home or wherever. I believe he went on Instagram Live, and he went on a rant about the LGBTQ community on LGBTQ. All right, let's see if we can find the first video. So maybe that is the first video. Hold on one second. Okay, I think that's the video. So let me make sure I don't have it here. Boom. Boom. Okay. I'm gonna show you all this video, and we're gonna react to it together, because if you're a follower of Christ, this is very important, because I mean it's not news to us, but it's important that we see these things in real.
Here's the kingdom of God.
This is the video that the NBA player posted. And this is the video that would lead to him losing his job immediately. He is no longer an NBA player.
All the righteous, but sinners to repentance. So Jesus Christ, he comes to call these sinners to repentance. He comes to call sinners that they become righteous. If many of you in this call are sinners, sinners will not inherit the kingdom of God. You have to become born again of the Holy Spirit to inherit God's kingdom. There's rules and regulations to his kingdom. No sin will be led into his kingdom. No sin. You have to be blameless, and it's not possible in your own flesh. You need the blood of Jesus to cleanse you of all sin. You need to ask Jesus to cleanse you of all sin. That you live a holy life, because sin will not be in his kingdom at all. And from this, he said, "For I did not come to call the righteous." There are righteous people right now on this earth. There are righteous people by the blood of Jesus that are righteous, truly righteous, not a Pharisee or hypocrite righteous where they appear to.
Okay. Hold on one sec. There's a longer one. We got to find the longer one. Where is the video at? Give me 1 second. Did they scrape it from the internet? All right, told my flight attendant to stop filming while he was speaking on getting released. Okay, I'm looking for, where is it at? And where is it at? This is so weird. It's like they deleted the video. I'm trying to find it. Hold on. Where is the video at? These are all reaction videos, but I'm looking for the original video. What in the world? Is it? No, that's not it. So he got released, but okay, this is so strange. I just had the video. I guess they deleted the video. Those are all his reaction videos. Where's the original one? Oh boy. I apologize, everybody. I normally have these clips together. This is so strange. Okay. Let me see if I can find it on YouTube then. Let's see. Jaden Ivey on LGBTQ. Because he spoke on, no, it's only the reaction videos. Where is it? Okay, this is so strange that I literally cannot find it. So strange. I don't know what to say to that. So I guess the best I got, Yeah, I don't know. He went on a rant. He said that homosexuality is a sin, which it is. He said that Steph Curry is a fake Christian. He said that people believe that these folks are real Christians because they'll quote a Bible verse or they'll get a Bible verse tattoo. He said, but these people are not who a lot of people believe that they are. And he woke up the next morning and he was waived from the Chicago Bulls. And I'm going to play a couple of his reaction videos so that we can listen to what he had to say after being waived.
They said my conduct is detrimental to the team, right? Why didn't they just say we don't agree with his stance on LGBTQ? Why didn't they say that? Well, how is it conduct detrimental to the team? What did I do to the team? What did I do to the players? I did nothing but practice with them, play with them, pass the ball to them, good teammate to them. Said good job, good shot. I said, good job, good pass, way to play, bro. Right? I said these things to my teammates. Was never detrimental to them. So why is it that the NBA and the Chicago Bulls say that I'm detrimental to the team? How? Because I believe in the truth. Because I know Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. How? How is my conduct detrimental to the team? Because of what I believe. Because of what the truth is.
And remember what I mean, we've already been through this. I know a lot of you all are newer to the channel. We've been over this multiple times over the years. We know that the NBA is quote unquote woke. I don't like that term because woke actually used to mean a completely different thing. They're super progressive, right? They are of the world. We know that. To be a business, you have to cater to the world. You have to, because you're going to turn a lot of people off if you are a follower of Jesus and that's how you run your business, right? And so this is him on a panel sort of speaking about the hypocrisy of how other players are allowed to do it, but it only matters how good you are, how much revenue you're bringing in for the business. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, yeah, that makes sense. If you're a star player, then you're going to have more leeway. That makes more sense because they're going to lose a lot of money if they let you go. But the point is, he has the freedom of speech. Yeah, sure, there's not the freedom of consequence, but the point is, he wasn't in an NBA game when he did it. He was on his own time talking about his faith. He didn't wish harm on anybody. That's not what happened. That's not the issue here.
So Anthony, I just saw a video. Anthony Edwards had said some derogatory thing to some male doing he had I don't even think it was initially like I can't remember vividly what the situation was, but he called somebody a derogatory word, right? He called them the F word, but like
oh yeah.
yeah. Okay. So he was like portraying that person was gay, basically, right? Mm-hmm. And so I believe the NBA fined him for it, right? But he said those things, right? And they fined him for it. And so how is it that he said something detrimental and basically hypocritical judgment because he's not a Christian?
Yeah, it's derogatory. Right? It's like a slur almost for homosexuals that if you use
got,
that word against
fined.
them, they're going to be offended by it. Right.
He got fined. He didn't get kicked out the league. He didn't get waived, right? But it's because he's the best player on their team, right? They need him, right? The Timberwolves need him to be on the team because he's the best player. He makes them money. Right? Well, I'm injured. I'm injured and I'm speaking the truth. It's all money involved into that. That's why that's why he's still playing. That's why they're not going to waive him. He's making the Timberwolves money. Everyone goes to pay to watch Anthony Edwards. Yep. If they didn't have Anthony Edwards, no one will watch the Timberwolves.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And a bigger reason I wanted to share this is because of the reaction. I want to show you how fallen this world is. I want to show you just how bad things have gotten in this world. Because clearly everything he just said, if you're a believer, you should agree with everything he just said. I wasn't able to find the clip. Still don't know why I wasn't able to find the original clip. That's very strange. That is very hard to find now of what he said. But before we go to the reaction videos of what people have to say, I want to show everybody or remind everybody what the NBA is about. Because a lot of you all are newer to this channel, and we've been over this already. But for the ones that are new, let's listen to what former NBA player Trey Burke had to say himself about what the NBA actually is.
You made it to the league, bro. It's the whole, like, they don't put the emphasis on it. I feel like we should get, because it's
1%.
It's a prestigious fraternity, bro. Like, straight up, it's just something that ain't easy to do. So I commend everybody.
I look at it like everybody in the world who ever played basketball wanted to go to the NBA, bro. Every kid from every state, from across seas, everything. And some of the people that got to do that, bro, it's a small list, bro. It's 1%, bro.
So I just feel like it need to be more respect on the guys who they don't look at as the so-called superstars. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because
it's so much going on, bro. Like, and I don't even want to get into all that, but a lot of, like, bro, like, some niggas, bro, some superstars took a different route. I'm gonna be real. Like, some superstars took a different route, and I ain't get on here to talk about that much. But some of that shit come with some demonic shit, some dark shit. You feel me? Yeah. Some of that shit, like, it get real.
Now, that voice you just heard,
that's a fact. That's a fact. And I want to play this last little snippet just so you all can hear from another professional, because people tend to believe it more when they hear from people that played in the industry. That was an NBA player that was just speaking. Now here's a former NFL player, a guy by the name of Larry Johnson. Listen to what he said about this Jaden Ivey situation.
Jaden Ivey gets released on 3/30/33. All over some very soft comments he made about the LGBTQ community by calling Pride Month, celebrated in the NBA, unrighteousness.
Did y'all catch that? He was released on the date March 30th, which is the third month and the 30th day. What number is that? 33. Let's run that back.
Ivy gets released on 3/30/33. All over some very soft comments he made about the LGBTQ community by calling Pride Month, celebrated in the NBA, unrighteousness. And then he goes on this rant about other athletes not being Christians or knowing Jesus. And then he points out Steph Curry. And then everybody else chimes in and believe that Steph Curry is some golden child that knows Jesus because he dropped a couple of scriptures. And you should know by now they're all Freemasons. They're all liars. They're all Luciferians. They're all Satanists. Because there's no way in the world that you're allowed to have such faith being broadcasted if it's not for mockery purposes or to lead the masses astray. So outside of that, I really wish professional athletes would shut up, especially when it involves scripture. But I know they won't, because their whole point is to bring up this argument with Christians versus the gay community when Christians versus Muslims is put on the back burner for now because it's Pride Month. But it's a dumb argument. Just as gays do Christmas and Easter, Christians do Christmas and Easter. So when you get other athletes like Trayvon Henderson talking about blessed are those who speak righteousness or persecuted for righteousness, shut up. Because there is no true righteousness or set apartness in religion. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, that means if Freemasons are doing what you're doing, Luciferians are doing what you're doing, or gays doing what you're doing, any community that this religion attacks, if you're doing the same things that they're doing, you are not righteous and you cannot call yourself righteous. You are a liar. But I know they do this for a purpose, because they want churches flooded with the acceptance of one sin. And no one talks about the sin of idolatry. No one talks about the sin of these pagan feast days and these pagan gods attached to it. The Israelites went into captivity time and time again, not necessarily over homosexuality. They were sent into captivity and destroyed numerous times because they would not stop being in other people's religion and worshiping other people's gods. The same gods and the same religious doctrines that people mingle in their religions, they still do today. So you cannot call yourself self-righteous or think anything you do is righteousness on social media.
All right, so this comment here, somebody said he became a brand risk. He was injured and couldn't work, wasn't a superstar, then attacked his co-workers. This gets you fired everywhere. I'm good on this one. What co-workers did he attack? I haven't seen that one yet. So if y'all can send it over to me, I'd love to see it. I would definitely love to see it. But if you notice here, as we know, we've covered it many times before. We know the largest superstars in the league are Freemasons, and that's what comes with it. The point of me mentioning that is to say, if you are not a part of that, you don't have the leverage to try to speak out about what it is you believe in, especially if you're Christian. That's the wrong faith to have. That's the wrong faith to have.
Why?
My biggest rebuttal or just question here would be, I'm not listening to a person that sounds crazy to me. He seems to only talk about Jesus Christ. Normally, somebody who's having a psychotic break or some sort of going through some sort of psychosis will show other signs of belligerent behavior publicly. There should be something we should see. Right? I also find it interesting that it's the Chicago Bulls. That's a different conversation. I've covered Michael Jordan before with the Chicago Bulls. Even the symbol of the Chicago Bulls, that's a conversation in itself. That's a bull, obviously. But there's other symbols within the bull head in itself, but I would digress. But I want to go to a reaction from one of another professional, except he took let me see here. Let me find it. He decided to take a more he has some choice words for Mr. Emmanuel Acho. This is what he had to say to Jaden Ivey. And this just goes to show you how people don't have backbones.
There is freedom of speech, but freedom of speech does not necessarily mean freedom of consequence. I also will remind everybody, starting from the sports perspective, your talent will make room for you. If Jaden Ivey was averaging 20 points and 10 assists right now, 20 points and 10 boards right now, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But because in January of 2025, he broke his left fibula. And then in October of 2025, he had arthroscopic knee surgery. And then again, he's missed the last 2 weeks he had missed, starting in February 21st after getting traded from the Detroit Pistons to the Chicago Bulls. As a result, averaging 11 points and 3 assists, his talent is not making room for him. Plus, if you're in the training room, we do not necessarily want to hear from you. We want to just see you recovering. So from a sports perspective, starting there, athletes, you know your talent makes room for you. The talent starts to diminish. We do not want to hear you more than we see you. That's number one. Number two, I don't like the path that Jaden Ivey is going down. And the reason I say this is this. Number one, Jaden Ivey's been through a lot. If you hear what he's talked about, he was sexually molested as a child. He had a porn addiction while he was married. He's self-admitted that he was abusive towards his wife and his children. These are all Jaden Ivey's words, not my own.
What does it have to do with what he's going through right now? What does it have to do with why he was released?
And so Jaden Ivey is also acknowledging like he's a struggling individual, or an individual that has struggled. So let me acknowledge that, acknowledge the emotional and the interpersonal aspects as well. Anybody that's been to therapy understands things that happen to you as a child, they impact you as an adult. Now let me talk about the biblical aspect of it. Because Jaden Ivey also has to understand that not everything that's legal is going to be biblical. Render to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Why does he say everything that's legal doesn't mean it's going to be biblical, as if those things are even similar in any way anyways, right? Those are two separate worlds to begin with. What do you mean? You said that like that was something deep. That's literally a given. That's like saying he has to understand that everything that's red isn't going to be blue. Well, yeah, those are two separate colors.
Also have to understand, you have to be wise, discerning, and tactful as to how you speak and when you speak and who you speak to. Jaden Ivey, if you want to quote Paul in Corinthians, Paul wrote what he wrote to the church in Corinth. He didn't necessarily write what he wrote to the church in Ephesus or the church in Galatia. In the same manner, Jaden Ivey, you got to use discernment of when you speak and who you're speaking to. If your job and your goal is to emulate Jesus, also understand when Jesus saw the woman who had committed adultery, he said, go and sin no more. He didn't then try to extrapolate every single sin and every single man she has slept with adulterously. So I will just start by saying, one, understand there's a difference between legal and biblical. Two, Jaden Ivey, make sure you tend to your mental and emotional health if indeed there is anything going on, because you have been very vulnerable about your struggles previously. And then three, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and render to God what's God's. That's biblical if you want to talk biblically.
Yeah, there's a couple of problems with this. First and foremost, Emmanuel Acho, if that's how you say his name, I could have sworn that Emmanuel Acho was defending Colin Kaepernick back in 2017, I believe it was, because when it comes to Jaden Ivey, who's speaking about the LGBTQ community, and if you notice in that clip, Emmanuel Acho would not say anything about the very things that got him fired, got him waived by his team. Why did Emmanuel Acho not say the specific things that Jaden Ivey just said about the LGBTQ community, fornication, sinful lifestyle, idolatry? Why did he not talk about that? Instead, he made it a lot more general. In fact, I do believe he did say this. He just said that there is a such thing as freedom of speech, but there is no such thing as freedom from consequences. That's what he just said about Jaden Ivey. Let's see what Emmanuel Acho said about Colin Kaepernick.
Is free speech still free? For everybody who yells and proclaims, we hate cancel culture, but then you cancel a man from his national platform. Is free speech still free? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what happened to the very First Amendment? I would suggest for 234 years in this country, we had freedom of speech, but you could suggest there is no greater moment in which you've seen freedom of speech no longer be free than this one right now, with Jimmy Kimmel being suspended indefinitely for his comments that he made. Freedom of speech is not freedom of consequence. You can say whatever you want to say in this life, but you might get punished for what it is that you say in this life. And so, yeah, freedom of speech still exists. First Amendment in 1791, all good and well. But freedom of consequence, nah, G, like that's what I'm left feeling, bro. It's free speech.
So this is actually not the Colin Kaepernick clip, but the point still stands. This guy, let me bring up the photo. Yeah, let me bring up the photo. For those of you that don't know who Emmanuel Acho is, Emmanuel Acho okay, what is it doing? Is this guy here. He's the guy who was actually fired from Fox after a lawsuit came out that he and this woman here, her name is Joy Taylor, were involved in an inappropriate relationship. And she wasn't the only one. He wasn't the only one she was involved with. Right? So the point of me sharing this is to say it's very easy when you're of the world to look at a person like Jaden Ivey and to start sort of lecturing him after he's lost his job for what appears to be speaking about his faith. Where is it at?
Tweets and posts featuring videos promoting his fellow colleague Joy Taylor after a new Fox Sports lawsuit alleges that Emmanuel and Taylor were sleeping together. Now, the lawsuit from this hairstylist, Nushin Faraji, says that after she found out that Joy Taylor was sleeping with Emmanuel Acho and Fox Sports executive Charlie Dixon, she said not to sleep with both of them at the same time. Joy Taylor said, "Don't worry about it. I'm so powerful now that if anything goes south, I'm just going to say that Charlie Dixon was forcing himself on me and take him down with sexual harassment." Now, the lawsuit comes out, and these are all just allegations about these two and Skip Bayless and these executives. Nothing proven yet. But what does Emmanuel Acho do? He immediately deletes all of his content talking about Joy Taylor. Here's what they were.
But truly, in the sports industry, I do not know anyone that is more impressive in every way, shape, or form than the one and only Joy Taylor, ladies and gentlemen. I got to take a moment to shout out my co-host, Joy Taylor. A woman, a black woman, daily show, sports. Do you all realize how hard it is to get into the position that she is in?
Now, to be clear, if these two were banging each other, that's their business. It's distasteful. She was married and ended up getting a divorce because of it. Not great. Never a good idea to sleep with the coworkers. That always gets messy, but it's not like he's some sort of shot caller who gave her everything because she slept with him. That's what was happening with Charlie Dixon, the Fox Sports exec. That's a horse of a different color. But these two together is nothing illegal. It's just salacious gossip. Not a great idea to delete everything as soon as you're merely mentioned, but this is just a workplace hookup gone wrong.
Yeah. Just wanted to point that out. Be careful when you're throwing stones at people, which leads me to my next point, because there's another person, let me share this screen, who had some interesting things to say about Mr. Jaden Ivey for speaking on his faith. A guy named Josh Giddey, who was his teammate for the Chicago Bulls. Josh Giddey says, "I hope he get the help he needs, whatever he's going through. I do really hope he gets help. It's not going to be with the Bulls anymore, but wherever it is, I hope he gets it." Now, it is possible that he could know something that I don't know. Maybe Jaden Ivey was attacking his teammates. Maybe he did some other things we don't know about. But again, it appears to me and many other people that this guy lost his job only after he went on Instagram Live and started talking about how homosexuality is a sin, how the NBA is always promoting Pride Month, and we're going to have to answer for our lifestyle. Which reminds me, they always tell us, you're free to believe what you want as a player or as an employee, but you can't force it down our throats. If you're a Christian, Jaden, that's fine, but you can't force your fans to be Christians, which is not what he was doing. But if he's not allowed to force his religion on people, shouldn't that work both ways? What is this? This is quite literally what he's doing, what the NBA is doing to him and everybody else. They're forcing their religion onto everybody else. Everybody don't want to see this. The NBA is super quick to say something like, lift every black voice. You know, they're super progressive. Lift every black voice and women's equality, you know, women's rights. Well, you can't yell lift every black voice, but then also be the same NBA to say, oh, but not that one. Not like that. Don't say those things. Somebody said trans isn't a religion. No. the rainbow and what this flag represents absolutely is a religion. Look up the definition of religion. Oh, it's a religion. In 2026, they've made it a religion. It's complete nonsense. But what I find so funny about Josh Giddey saying what he said about Jaden Ivey is that, for those of you that don't know, Mr. Josh Giddey is probably the last person that needs to be talking about anybody, because he's probably one of the very few people in the league that probably shouldn't be in the league. This was just, I believe, 2 years ago. NBA is investigating alleged improper relationship between Giddey and an underage girl. Giddey had no comment at practice on Friday. Giddey was drafted to the Thunder in 2021. Giddey is still in the NBA. A player by the name of Kevin Porter Jr. is still in the NBA. Kevin Porter Jr. was arrested on felony charges of strangulation of girlfriend and pled guilty and only received a 4-game suspension. So whatever it is that that Jaden Ivey did that we may not know about, is it worse than that? Right? What's the guy out there? And there's a guy that plays for the Charlotte Hornets. He just got arrested just like 2 years ago on domestic violence charges, and it was some really bad domestic violence charges. He was suspended for like a lot of games. He's back in the league, and he signed a $100 million contract. What's worse than beating your spouse half to death? He's in the league. And he's not even the best player on his team. Yeah. Stephen A. Smith spoke on it. Yeah, man. Crazy. All right, let's move over here to our good old buddy Rob McCoy. Let's go to the sermon that Rob McCoy where is it at? Here it is. Shout out to Allie Files. Allie Files. I was able to catch this earlier today, and I figured we could listen to this a little bit together. Oh, Rob McCoy, who's been out of the spotlight for a little minute, but now he made a return. Let's listen to what he had to say. And if you notice here, he actually has on a shirt this time that fits. Good for him.
We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about transgender. We don't talk about abortion. We don't talk about... Charlie would take it all on. He would spend the first portion of his day studying the scriptures and having his devotion before the Lord and praying. And then he'd spend at least 2 hours studying all the topics pertinent to 18 to 30-year-olds. So you were forefront on his mind, because he was concerned with the lost boys of the West, and he wanted all of you to have the American dream. So he studied these topics voraciously. He was autodidact, self-taught. And yes, he would take a Sabbath. He would shut off his phone, and the only electronic he'd use is the TV, because he loved football on Saturday. It was a family deal, and he would be present for his kids. And it changed him as a human being. Charlie was a remarkable man. He died with a smile on his face. A lot of you are saying, well, who killed him? I don't know. But if you want to blame me or my son because you listen to Candace Owens, why don't you just stop with a carnal Christian soap opera?
So let's just back up here a little bit. And I'm going to start off with actually giving Rob McCoy some credit. We all heard what he just said. And I don't know if I had ever heard him say this before this point. He said he doesn't know. And that's kind of a big deal.
And it changed him as a human being. Charlie was a remarkable man. He died with a smile on his face. A lot of you are saying, well, who killed him? I don't know.
Which is better than what we're hearing from the rest of TPUSA. Right? The amazing Mikey McCoy's father here, Rob McCoy himself, just said himself he has no clue. But let's actually focus on that for just a second. If Andrew Kolvet, if Blake Neff, if Erika Kirk are all saying that without a shadow of a doubt, they're 100% convinced that Tyler Robinson did this, why would Rob McCoy be saying something different? His son is the chief of staff there. So if anybody would have indirect line to the attorney and what the attorney are telling and showing them based on the evidence and the case that they're building, why would he say that he does not know? That right there I found extremely interesting.
But if you want to blame me or my son because you listen to Candace Owens, why don't you just stop with a carnal Christian soap opera? There's not a thing she said pertaining to my family that is even remotely true. Not one thing.
Okay. She said about your family. I've said about your family. Other people have said about your family. Mikey McCoy turned around immediately. Can you explain that? How about the fact that you said that he had blood all over him? He didn't. He didn't. You lied. Your son turned around immediately and walked off. Can you explain that? He didn't duck. He didn't, run for cover. He walked. He put a phone up to his face and walked off. He's a terrible actor, bro. How can you receive a phone call in a split second? Let's say he was already on the phone. Why would he then get on the phone after Charlie's been shot? He should be shocked. He should be in shock. He should be ducking for cover. He should be confused. He wasn't any of those things. So no, I think we're kind of remotely, at the very least, remotely close.
And I say that because I want to emphasize this. The scripture points out, he who answers a matter before he hears it, this is folly and disgrace. That's Proverbs 18 and then Proverbs 14. The fool believes every word, but the prudent considers well his steps. A wise man fears and departs from evil, but a fool rages in his self-confidence. You feel good because you feel like you're on the in and you have a secret knowledge because she's dropping all kinds of innuendos and suggestions. She's not the judge and jury and executioner.
Why is your sermon about a random podcaster? And I'm only going to say random in the sense that she's nowhere in the scriptures. Who cares? Why are you talking about another person that has nothing to do with, our salvation? As a pastor, that's weird. If you want to talk about that, even if it's publicly, but it's not a sermon, fine. If you want to talk about it on a podcast, fine. Why are you talking about it in your sermon?
There's a thing in America called due process.
Mm-hmm.
You know where it came from? 19 people were murdered because of spectral evidence. I had a dream and I saw a spirit of a witch upon you. It was called the Salem witch trials. They killed 19 people because they had spectral evidence. I just felt like I saw Charlie in a dream. Spectral evidence.
Very dishonest. This here is more reason to believe that people have agendas that are imagine all the evidence that has been gathered, all the fair questions, all the holes and the gaping holes that's been discovered by many of us over the past 6 months. Why is it that the one thing that they go to is the time she mentioned having dreams? It's not as if she's saying, because of the dream, this is the reason, and the only reason I believe X, Y, Z. What about all the tangible and intangible things that have been discovered and pointed out? Why aren't you talking about those? Where's the footage of Tyler taking the shot? Where's the GRS testings? Why did his neck not shatter, explode? Why was there suspicious behavior around Charlie? Why has the behavior of everybody around Charlie been weird ever since? Why have TPUSA seemingly went in a different direction from Charlie since everything? Those are fair questions, man. And a lot of those types of questions are coming from people that actually care about Charlie and or cared about Charlie.
You know who ended it? A guy by the name of Increase Mather, who was the president of Harvard. He said the scriptures, changing culture, the scriptures call for due process, 2 or 3 witnesses. It also gives the other person an opportunity to present their side of the story. And then you have a jury of their peers who will vote, and you don't show partiality, which the scriptures point out, whether they're rich or poor. But in America today, when you have your eyes glued on this window into hell in your hand, you become, she's the judge, and you're all the jury. And you know who the executioner is? One of these knuckleheads that's been sending letters wanting to kill me, that's possibly going to make good on it one of these days, like they did to Charlie.
So first and foremost, I don't condone that. If he's actually experiencing that, I don't condone it. I do suggest that he get protection. I don't wish that on anybody. Yeah, that's not good to hear if he's telling the truth. Secondly, I don't like, however, with that said, I don't like that he used that to then transition and say, like somebody did to Charlie. You don't know if a knucklehead took out Charlie. You don't know that. Or maybe you do. Or maybe you do know who took out Charlie. But something tells me that if you did know, you would know that it's not a knucklehead.
That's not America. And that's not Christendom. And if you're participating in that, you need to stop. Okay, there's 3 of you. Anyone else?
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. Yeah, man. Frustrating. Very frustrating with these people. All right, man. Let me get to some of your super chats. Thank you, Veronica, for becoming a member, for sure. Tammy Hill, thank you for the $20. Off topic, Blake Neff had a picture of Clarence Thomas, Sasha Riley on the wall behind him, previous shows. So interesting. Allegedly, TPUSA a lot of association with yeah, Diddy, what do you think? What do I think? I think I love to see that. If you have that, send that to me. Sasha Riley, for those of you that do not know or remember, is the Army veteran. I believe this person served in the Iraq War, if I remember correctly. Accused Donald Trump, Supreme Court Judge Clarence Thomas, I believe Lindsey Graham, and Jeffrey Epstein of assaulting him when he was a kid. I did a video on it probably about 3 or 4 months ago. if they had a picture of these two individuals or of Clarence Thomas specifically, I guess you probably put just Sasha Riley in the parentheses to remind me of why it's relevant. If he had Clarence Thomas up there before and he took it down, I want to see it. I want to see that. Misty, thank you for the $5 super chat. Veronica, thank you for the $10 super chat. This PSYOP is getting more insane every day, gaslighting us, word salad. They want to exhaust us, so we will stop talking about it. Into happening is deeper than just Charlie. It's about our kids' future. Exactly. Unfortunately, though, Veronica, the impact of or the implications of what I believe was part of what truly happened with the Charlie Kirk event is the Iran war. And we're seeing the outcome. Boots on the ground. And we know the purpose of wars is to, in my opinion, launder money and to make money. And I believe they're going to do just that. And the American people specifically, or in particular, are going to feel the effects on the economy sooner and later. The best way to predict the future is to look at the past. Right? There's nothing new under the sun, as the scripture says. It's just a matter of how bad we're going to get hit. Yeah. Brian, I appreciate it. He says, great work. Veronica, thank you for the $5 super chat. Charlie and Erika were best friends with John Mappin. Scientology and John Mappin introduced Candace and George Farmer. Just saying. John Mappin has been tweeting here lately quite a few things. He's actually been calling out and questioning the narrative. For the record, he has been doing that. He also just admitted that Charlie also told him that he was not a fan of the Iran war. But yes, I remember John Mappin was apparently sitting in between Candace and George or something to the effect. That is interesting that he introduced them. I didn't know he was School of Scientology, though. I'm going to have to try to confirm that one. I've done a video on Scientology a few times. Masons use the rainbow as a way to indoctrinate their children. Absolutely. They took the rainbow, which is originally from the scriptures. For those of you that don't know, the rainbow is first seen and heard of for the first time in history in the scriptures, the Holy Scriptures, the Bible scriptures. And the Masons took the rainbow as a way to indoctrinate the children. My mother was in the Rainbow Kids because my grandfather was a Mason. Absolutely. Very well said, Truman Show. Speaking of the Truman Show, that's a very Freemasonic film as well. Yep. All righty. Shout out to the Truman Show again for the $5. And it's crazy how Rob McCoy has on blue and gold, which are the colors of military intelligence. They are. And they're also the colors. Blue and gold. Yeah, no, it is. You're actually pretty tapped in. Pretty impressed. When Tupac said they got money for wars but can't feed the poor, he wasn't lying. No, he's correct. He said that in the interview, I believe he was sitting in a studio, a music studio, recording studio, when he said that. And that rant was right on the money. Isn't this the same guy who got a PD file? It is him. He hired the guy who told him about his past and claimed that he was falsely accused. Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah, very good memory. Rob McCoy. Jitterbug, thank you for the $2. Hi Diddy from UK. You are my fave. Keep it the good work. I appreciate that big time. Big time. Thank you so much. Yeah, man. Craziness. What I would encourage, though, is when you get a chance, look up the Jaden Ivey original video. I want you all to be able to hear what he said. For some reason, I can't find it now. But I'm sure someone has already reacted to it. I just didn't want to go to a reaction video. Somebody's already reacted to it and they've clipped it, but it looked like they've taken the original clip down and taken other people's posting of the original clip off Twitter, even though I saw it before. So if you're able to find that, send it over to me. I would appreciate it. All right, y'all, hit the like button again as always. I appreciate you all. I'm going to get up out of here, and I'm going to catch you on the next one. Peace.
Oh, yeah, Didi got a podcast.
Attitudes and our work ethic become very important in realizing our goals and opening up possibilities. I had lunch a couple of weeks ago with a recent graduate of UCA. And his story is really fascinating. It's one of overcoming homelessness during his time pursuing his degree, first at a community college here in Arkansas, and then finishing his bachelor's degree here at UCA. His narrative ranges from estrangement from family for many years to a hopeful reunion with mother and siblings. His record is one of overcoming odds in a way that I probably could not, and certainly demonstrating levels of tenacity and patience and optimism that I can only marvel at. He wanted to talk with me about his new job and his career path going forward. I really need to be there to learn from him because that's where the real value was.
Everything I say in this video is alleged. Allegedly.
No such thing as a life that's better than yours. Y'all just repeat after me. I really appreciate it. Alright. No such thing. Come on, we can do better than that. Talk to it. Talk to it. Now let's start it over. No such thing as a life that's better than yours.
You're worse than the rich white people or the rich white Jews that own these record labels because they don't even understand these populations. You have a lot closer relationship to these people and you're leading them to hellfire. You are leading them in the wrong direction in the name of getting rich and famous. How dare you?
Oh, yeah, Didi got a podcast.